Hi everyone, today's video is a bit different than my usual posts. Originally, I wanted to upload 2 videos this week, one being my regular Sunday upload and the other a research trip I took a few months back. Those who are with this channel longer might remember that at one point I mentioned I was thinking about more uploads. Well, this was the week for that. However, 2 things happened. Number 1, I got really sick this week, and so for 2 days I was really not able to do anything. And number 2, I realized that trying to do 2 videos a week was just way too time consuming with my current schedule, and I simply would not be able to do so. Essentially, trying to do 2 videos no longer became fun for me. I want to travel and talk about certain topics, and if I get 100 views on the video, you know what? That honestly just makes my day. Because I know not only I went somewhere fun and I got to do something that I really wanted to do, but I was also able to share that experience with others and hopefully they enjoyed it as well. Honestly, that is the primary point of this channel for me. And so of course, if I continue at one point, I would love to hit 1,000 subscribers and get this channel monetized simply because I have some really interesting ideas and places to visit, not just in New York, but also in other states. But at the end of the day, realistically, it comes along with financial expenses. So sure, I can do a few videos like that, but I would not be able to do it on a regular basis in terms of uploading every single week that content. I did not win the lottery just yet. Therefore, monetizing this channel, I would dedicate the money to travel. But in the meantime, if I make the day a little bit more interesting and enjoyable, even for 20 viewers, I am really happy about that. Therefore, I appreciate all of you who have subscribed and watched my videos. It is really an amazing feeling. Anyway, the point is that here I am last minute changing my whole video for this week. Few months back, I traveled to the University of Notre Dame and Hoover Institute in California. So I figured I will share some of this with you. It's actually one of 2 research trips I took, and I will share the other trip in the future as well. But before I show it to you, you are looking right now at Forest Park in Queens. It's the 10th largest park in New York City, with land being bought by the city already in 1895. And what you would think is just a regular park here in New York City, you can actually point out interesting history throughout the park. For example, it was originally to be part of a greater design of the whole line of parks being continuous, connected from Prospect Park in Brooklyn, which I recently did a video on, all the way into Jamaica. A plan which was not really fully realized. You are right now viewing this section of the park that I was walking in. Walking through here, below us are abandoned Long Island Railroad tracks. And you can go all the way down to them, and actually many people do. Although I recently heard this will be part of something called Queensway, where about 3.5 miles of abandoned track will be transformed into open green area parks. So if this ever does happen in the future, I will definitely show it to you on this channel. And it's kind of cool that now I have some of this older footage so I can actually show you the transformation. By one of the entrances to the park, there is a war memorial dedicated to those who have perished in World War I. And nearby is the Joseph Schaffer Memorial with an artillery shell at the center. He was a local who distinguished himself in heroic acts during World War II. From the other side of Woodhaven Boulevard, we have the Lawrence Strack Memorial Pound, named after the first local resident who died in the war in Vietnam in 1967. He was only 19 years old. This used to be baseball fields, however constant flooding usually made the fields not usable, and so it was turned into a pond. A little further up, we have the carousel, created over 100 years ago. And the George Surford bandshell, which can accommodate about 3,000 people and many times hosts free concerts throughout the summer. Continuing walking deeper into the park, we have a golf course to the right. And to the left, you can really tell how high you are standing because you can view the Jamaica Bay, the body of water in the distance. That is probably like 4 miles away, maybe even more than that. So it's a pretty impressive hill we are standing on. Okay, so let me show you a little bit of my 3-day research trip. My day began at 3 a.m. as I had a flight out of LaGuardia Airport at 6 a.m. and I traveled to Chicago O'Hare International Airport, about 730 miles away, with about 2.5-hour flight. There, I rented a car, and my poison was the Nissan Kicks. Honestly, I love the car around the city, but if you need to travel long distances on highways, it's a little bit uncomfortable. And I needed to travel for a long distance because I had to drive to the University of Notre Dame, which is about 120 miles away, so it was about a 2-hour drive. Yes, I know there were airports closer, but this was the cheapest flight and best suited for my schedule because the next day I was already flying out to California in the evening. Here's a bit of the university and it's beautiful. It really is. I honestly saw myself really teaching here. It's a 4-year private university founded in the 1840s, and it's one of the top universities in the United States. Of course, being known for their football team, the Fighting Irish. Here's the stadium from the outside, but check out those seats. How cool is that they incorporated those seats from like a adjacent structure? It's really fascinating. This is the Word of Life mural on the side of the library building, which represents Catholic saints, teachers, writers, and an image of a resurrected Jesus Christ. And here we have the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, a Catholic church on campus. Again, it's gorgeous on the campus. It's very clean, very well maintained. But as you see, the day I arrived, it was raining and cold and muggy, and the archive was closing soon. So I spent a few hours in the library going through some books that I could have used information out of. Then the next day I went to the archives and essentially stayed there from opening all the way up to like 3 p.m. because my flight to California was leaving like 9 or 10 in the evening, something like that. Here was my hotel, my room, and at the end of the day, all I wanted to do is just go to sleep. So I'm not even sure what time I passed out in bed. But the good news is, next morning I woke up to a continental free breakfast. Come on, this is nice, right? I always get a hotel with free breakfast, as I do not want to waste my time looking for local places to eat in the morning. Time for me is like gold, and I cannot waste it. So I right away got into research, and honestly, this is how most of my days looked like. Archives, searching computer databases, microfilms, reading, and I do this essentially until I drop. Now, my situation is probably not a typical one you will find most professors in. Usually, if we get grants or money from our universities to travel and to do research, we kind of want to take our time. You want to be rested, not under pressure. Everything, I am always not. I always go in, and on my trip, I am like a brain surgeon, where everything is thought out and planned, no time wasted, because I simply work very well under pressure. Under pressure is when I become very efficient and my best ideas come to me. I would not recommend this style to most people because it is very stressful, very high intensity. And again, if you are doing research 1,000 or 2,000 miles away from home, you want to make sure that you got everything you needed and not looking at the clock because your flight is leaving soon. But this works for me. Although again, I do a lot of preparation before the trip itself. So I drive back to Chicago and the O'Hare Airport in the evening, where I literally am able to bring back my car just on time before the flight. And after spending the whole day in the archive, driving back for almost 3 hours, I get on the flight to San Francisco, California. And just over 1,800 miles later, I made it. And it was so late, I had to take a taxi to my hotel, about a 35-minute ride. And this is the hotel itself. Again, I just passed out. I was so tired once again. Here I stayed for 2 nights because we have Stanford University. Again, it's just such a beautiful campus. I just felt like putting a sign on me and my back and just saying, New York City history professor for hire. Look at the palm trees. Gorgeous. I think Stanford University has one of the largest campuses in America. It's a 4-year private school, and I believe it usually comes in like the top 3, definitely the top 5 universities in the United States. I'm telling you, if I got a job offering here for a full-time position, this would have been the hardest decision of my life to make, whether to accept it and move away from New York City or not. But since I do not see any offers rolling in anytime soon under my door, I think I'm safe from making such choices, at least at this point in my life. But here at Stanford, we have the Hoover Institute, named after Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States. And in fact, he is the one who started the institute in 1919. And here's where I was stuck for most of my stay in California, because they have tons of documents. But the good thing is that most of these documents were already copied as microfilms. And so instead of sitting there and going through the documents, I was able to save most of the work on USB drives. And then later, I could read them in the comfort of my home. In fact, that is why I scheduled this trip to be so tight on time, because I knew ahead of time that most of my documents I needed, I would be able to save on USB drive. If this was not the case, I would need at least like 2 or 3 more days for the trip itself. But once you get out from the archive, because they eventually close, right? I had a little time to enjoy walking around the campus and the city. And as you see, most of what I was showing you are really just pictures, not video, because I needed my cell phone for archive, so I just could not waste my battery on recording things. After a 2-night stay, I made my way back home directly from California to New York City, a distance of about 2,600 miles and a flight of about 7 hours. At the end of the day, I traveled more than 6,000 miles in 3 days, 2 archives, and enough information gathered to easily write my research paper. Sounds fun, but it's kind of not. But I can at least brag about it on YouTube today. So stay safe out there, and I will see you soon.